What happens when you follow your creative vision before you know where it will lead? Welcome to this episode of I Love Your Stories. I'm your host, Hava Gurevich, and today I'm joined by Ukrainian-born conceptual portrait artist Anya Anti, who moved to New York with her husband, two suitcases, and no plan, just a dream. Known for her surreal, meticulously crafted portraits of women, Anya shares how she found her artistic niche and the self portrait that went viral during one of her darkest moments, and how she brings her fantastic vision to life through costumes, props, on location shoots, and hours of digital compositing. Join us as we go behind the scenes of her creative process, the power of trusting your voice, and how she's navigating the rise of AI generated art that may mimic the look, but not the heart of her work. Welcome to the podcast, Tanya. Now, quick word from our sponsor, and then we'll get right back to the show. When I started selling my art, I had absolutely no idea how to actually turn it into a business, a professional business. And then I came across art storefronts, and that was a game changer. I've been a customer now for years, and they've been instrumental every step of the way of helping me succeed. I have a gorgeous, powerful commerce website. I have marketing tools and a membership to a community that is very supportive and teaches me how to succeed as an artist. Check them out, artstorefronts.com, and tell them Hala sent you. So Anya, welcome and thank you for being on my podcast.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
And I'd like to start by maybe you can just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to photography, whatever
Sure.
you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Well, I've always been a creative kid. I was always good in like paintings and drawings and all sorts of crafts. But unfortunately that I've never went to an art school, even though I wanted to, but it was kind of expensive. I couldn't afford it. I had just a little bit of classes in my high school, like ethnic kind of painting. That's it. But I was always like this creative person and I needed like creative outlet. And that's when photography, like digital photography, became a big thing. And I discovered it for myself and I fell in love. And also, about the same time, I started to explore Photoshop because I was still in college. And I was figuring out what to do with my life. And again, because I was a creative kid, I wanted to do something more creative with my career. So I was exploring maybe becoming like a digital, not a designer, but like a web designer maybe, or something to do with design, like illustration maybe. So I started to learn Photoshop and Illustrator. So for me, Photoshop even came earlier than photography. I started learning Photoshop even before I got into photography. I already had a digital camera, but like a little one back in the day when everybody had it. Um, it was around 2008. So I started to, learn how to remove pimples and, dark circles under eyes to just, make my home photos more pretty, how to increase contrast and maybe boost saturation just to make my photographs a little bit prettier. Um, so yeah, and that's when I discovered photography. Around 2009, I got my first DSLR camera with all of my savings. It was like $400. So yeah, I've been doing photography for oh my god, 15 years now, I guess. Like everybody else, I started, you know, I didn't know what to do. I just photographed everything around me, like my friends, city landscapes. I was experimenting with different genres. But what I was pretty certain of that I wanted to create something that was different than everybody else. So that's why I started to experiment a long way, not just, learn how to take pictures and work with my camera, but also how to enhance them with editing, with post production. So, Photoshop.
Um, Let me before just kind of back up. So,
Mhm.
a little bit about your background. So, where you from, and where were you when you started doing photography, and where are you now?
I'm originally from Ukraine, so that's where I started. And spend the first years of my career. But in 2014, I moved to United States. And it was a big pivotal moment for me, not just in terms of career, but just life, because it was just me, my husband. We didn't have any friends, no family. Everybody's back there. Still, most of our family is still back in Ukraine. So it was just two of us, and we only had like two suitcases of stuff and my camera bag, and that's it, and my laptop, and that's it.
Did
And
you did you um have some destination or some job or something that you were coming to, or was it
no, nothing. So basically, I won green card lottery. Yes, and we just decided, to take a sleep and to move across the ocean to a completely new country. It was, I think it was my husband's first time abroad, like at all. It was my first time living by myself. So we didn't have any job offers, no opportunities, no, like we didn't have an apartment. So the first week, we lived with a friend that I never met before. We only met online. So that was a little scary, like coming to someone's places, somebody's apartment on the Upper East Side,
Hmm.
having no idea like what to expect. So we slept on a mattress on the floor for the first week. We only got our first apartment, and it was also quite challenging because you probably know, you have, in order to rent an apartment in the United States, you have to have like tax return and credit score. We didn't have any of that, obviously. So we had to pay 3 months deposit for the first apartment. We got it back, luckily, but it was all like, wow, because it was not just completely life changing. It was also really hard. It was very, difficult.
Did you both speak English when you came?
Yes, we spoke. Like, I spoke a little bit better than my husband, but I've been studying English since I was 6, and I've had a private tutor, and English was, like a mandatory class in my high school. But still, it's completely different when you learn language back in another country and you only speak it in class. It's like completely different when you land in a country when suddenly everybody speaks around you and you struggle to understand all the like um accents and all the slang words and all the phrases that you never heard before. It was really hard, and also psychologically it was really hard to speak for some reason, because hearing and understanding is so much different than speaking,
Yes.
because you understand everything but you struggle to find words.
And you
And
get really self-conscious about pronouncing or
exactly. Plus, yeah,
yeah.
psychologically, it's hard
Yeah.
to go outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
It very much improved because it's been like what, 11 years now. But for the first couple of years, it was very difficult.
So you were already doing photography, and so you were already, playing with Photoshop. Um, you focus on portraiture, and it's primarily women, and it's a kind of surreal fantasy kind of
Mhm.
portraiture. It's not just your regular straight photography. And I say surreal because um, you play with scale, you play with
Metaphors.
hmm?
Metaphors.
Metaphors. Yes, there's always there's always a story. It it always feels like a still from a movie,
Oh,
or
thank
some
you.
kind of like a surreal, like Alice in Wonderland
Oh, thank
kind
you
of.
for that. I love it.
And very, very strong colors. Your palette, there's a lot of blue, but and then you use color very selectively and very like intentionally, and they're stunning. They're stunning photographs.
Thank you so much.
How did you like how did you get there? And also, if you want to talk about like your first break, your first big break.
Well, that's exactly what it is. You're absolutely right. It's I describe myself as a surrealistic conceptual fine art photographer. So I specialize in female portraiture. It's not because I'm like against men. It's just that I don't know. I like to think about my subjects as my alter egos. So I gravitate towards female photography. Um, but yeah, how I got into that genre. So, like I mentioned earlier, I got into photography. It was around 2009. That's when I first got my first DSLR camera. And for the first year and a half, maybe, I was like, still finding myself, trying to figure out even if I like photography at all. I was not shooting that much. I was like trying different genres, trying different things. For some reason, I wasn't into portraiture like at all at first. I was like, I don't want to photograph people. Maybe because everybody were photographing people, and like I said, I wanted to do something that would be different from everybody. I wanted to be different because I was always an outsider. I wanted to be different, so I was like, no, I'm not gonna do portraiture. But then I met a girl that we later became friends, and she wasn't like a model, not in a professional way, but she was like a hobbyist. She just wanted like to take pictures. And she reached out to me and she said, like, well, I have a lot of cute outfits. I have some props. Let's do a photo shoot together. I'm like, sure, why not? And oh my God, it was so cliche. We went to the rail station, of course, and we took some pictures on the railroads. She was wearing a vintage outfit with high heel pumps. Don't ask me why we were on the rails. Road.
Yeah,
It was also vintage, like, it was vintage inspired. She had, like, a little vintage, suitcase. She had a vintage, telephone, with the handle, with the,
rotary
yeah.
rotary dial.
Don't ask me why, there was no concept. It was we were just having fun. It was good pictures, so I really enjoyed it, and from there, I got into portraiture, and with this girl, we made a few more photo shoots together.
Wait. So this was a pivotal photo shoot.
I think so. Not this one, but the next one, and I wanted to
So,
talk a little bit
but you
about.
liked it enough that you're like, okay, let's do this again.
Yeah, and I was like, "Yeah, maybe I will do portraiture now." Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So we did another photo shoot together, and I remember very clearly it was summer. I think it was August or July, but it was like the hottest day of the summer. It was like 30 something degrees Celsius. And we went to local park, and again, she grabbed a few props. She brought this beautiful book, like vintage, also inspired, like a scrapbook. It was really, really had a beautiful cover, and we took a few portraits. Again, like just regular portraits in the park. I had a vintage manual lens, like Helios lens, that I purchased on flea market for like $30 maybe. And it produced like beautiful swirly bouquets. So I was like really into that at the time. But I remember like social media wasn't a thing yet. Like it was only starting out. So the photography forums were really big where would you like post your work and people would discuss it. So that's what I did. And I remember my photography wasn't really getting a lot of attention because I'm assuming it was pretty like mediocre. It was like, just portraits, nothing special. It wasn't bad. It was just not standing out. And I was really frustrated about that because you remember I wanted to be, different from everyone else. I wanted to stand up. So I remember, remember that photo shoot was in summer, and I remember it was winter, so like 6 months maybe after that. I was sitting at home and I was bored, and I was like, I was analyzing other people's work, what I liked about them, and what was different about it. And I figured out that people used Photoshop, but not in the way that I was using it, clearing up maybe like skin a little bit and doing color and contrast, maybe like cropping and rotating, and that's it. I figured out that people used it heavily to like manipulate images to create something that wasn't captured in camera. And that's when it clicked to me, and I was like, huh, maybe this is something I can do. And I remember I took one of the images from that photo shoot in the summer, and I extended the frame. I created a square for the first time. And that's what I'm still doing it to this day. All my work is square. I stretched the edges of the picture. I created square. I also stretched the bokeh. I made it even like bigger and swirlier. Then I took there was a picture where she was holding a book, but she was looking down. Then I took the eyes from another picture and I put them onto the frame to look to her, to look into the camera, straight into the camera. So I did all sorts of manipulation, like compositing. I played with different, film emulative color presets. I put film grain. And that's when this photograph was born. And if you like go to my website and scroll all the way to the down, it's still there. It's still there. It's still in my portfolio. And I remember When I first posted it on the photography forum that I was active at, it like blew up. Everybody absolutely loved it. And like to think that this was the pivotal moment in my career because it defined the genre of surrealistic kind of like storytelling, female portraiture, which I still do now to this day. And I like to think about this moment as the start of my career. So it was like winter 2011.
Yeah. So being on photography forums and seeing what other people were doing, was a big influence for you in that it was kind of like a big classroom, seeing what other people are doing and
That's a really good way to put it, right?
yeah, and so it's like, it's like some things you see, it's like, "Okay, that's nice, that's not for me, that's not for me," and then you saw something and it spoke to you as this this is this is the direction I want, and then you had this, like, immediate confirmation.
Absolutely. I was searching for my style that would speak to me. And I think because I've always been, artistic and I couldn't create paintings in a traditional way because I never learned how to. Photography gave me that kind of outlet, and manipulation was my way of, taking a brush and creating these worlds, but with the means of my camera and my computer. I always say that I use photography kind of like in a way to collect materials to create something that is not possible to capture. So, from my shooting process is very different from like traditional how people take pictures traditionally because when you look at my raw files, they sometimes are very chaotic because um, I take multiple frames. I take separate shots of different elements that I would like to add later, and then I stitch them all together into a final artwork. And my goal is, yes, to create something that is a part of my imagination, something that does not exist, but I like to make these pictures as believable as possible that
Mhm.
kind of like make them come to life.
And so you posted this image and it kinda blew up.
Mhm.
What happened next?
For me, it was like an oh moment. I was like, oh, this is, first of all, I achieved my goal. I drew attention to my work. And second of all, I realized that this is it. This is what I would love to do now. I love it. I love it. I'm passionate about it. I think I'm good at it.
You're very good
So,
at it. Yeah.
14 years later, I'm still doing it.
Yeah. Um, so we've never met, but we have a friend in common, so I've known about you for a long time, and I always heard that there's actually I'm seeing that photo behind you, this the butterflies,
Yes.
and that particular image also was a pivotal moment for you, right?
In a way, yes, I think so because it came around the time after I moved to United States. And like I said, moving, across the ocean to another country where we didn't have anybody, no friends, no family, no offers. Um, and it's like, completely different language and everything. So it was really hard. It was really challenging and I struggled a lot. I'm also a little introverted. So for me, it's really hard to, reach out to people, make new friends, and just be social. And obviously, I struggle with it because, I'm in a new country. I don't have any friends here. Plus, language barrier, mentality barrier, it all, affected me how easy it was to me to go out there and photograph people. Because before moving to the United States, never took self portraits before. Like, I was not even considering, I was like, I want to be behind the camera. I want to have full control. I want to have a model, and be responsible for one part of the image, which is taking pictures. But when I moved to the United States, I realized, well, first of all, it's really hard. I'm in a new country. I don't have any friends, and it's really hard for me to, to reach out to people. Um, so that was probably the main reason why I started to do self-portraiture. And when I first did a self-portrait, I realized that it's not just about me being more comfortable. It's also being even more intimate with my work in a way because now suddenly I am the subject of my own, dream worlds and my own concepts and my own ideas. Um, Plus, it's convenient, when we traveled with my husband, because if you look at my portfolio, a lot of images are on locations and all of those locations are real. I never do like background swaps. Like, I never shoot on a gray backdrop, seamless backdrop and change the background, which is fine, but it's just not for me. But I don't do that. I All the locations you see are real locations. So I travel, I go out there, and when we travel, it's convenient, it's just me and my husband, so I can be the subject of my own images. I don't have to, find a model and hire somebody or so it has a lot of perks. But that's when I started to do self-portraiture a lot, and that's when I shifted to a more, like, cooler blue tones, I think. But, this image that you can see that behind me, the butterflies in my stomach, I think it was kinda like a climax of that process of me moving to another country, because it's about anxiety. When people the phrase "butterflies in my stomach," people usually like it to use when you're, like, in love and you have this anxious feeling, butterflies in your stomach, but, any anxious feeling can give you butterflies in your stomach when you're nervous or whatever reason. So, for me, it was kind of like a very symbolic of that difficult and dark period of my life, and it symbolizes me being reborn, like letting out all the bugs and being reborn as an immigrant in a new country, I guess. So, yeah, that photograph went viral. It was all over the internet, and for me, it was the big surprise because I did not expect it. I thought it was too dark. It was too dark, um, too deep, too creepy for masses, I guess, but people loved it, and, I'm grateful for it.
I mean, it's something, one of the few lessons from art school that I have kept is that when you, do something that's, like, deeply personal and vulnerable, you are most likely going to hit a nerve that everybody can it resonates with everyone because it's so
Mhm.
specific.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and, so, so now I've seen your work, you've traveled, you do workshops?
Sometimes I do, yeah. I do workshops, I do lectures, speaking engagements.
How did that come? Is that just, work that came to you from, the exposure of being a photographer? Of having that viral content?
I've actually done a few workshops before I moved to the United States. I've done a few workshops in Ukraine and Russia, so it wasn't something new to me. I don't know, just everybody did it back then. Like, everybody who would be a little bit of popular online would do, like, photography workshops, and then I thought, like, why not
Oh,
do.
the first viral photograph of your friend, that was still in Ukraine?
Yes, it
Okay,
was 2011,
okay,
so I moved
that's right,
in
yeah, you moved
2014.
in 14, yeah, so, okay, because
So I had a few years to, I was a few years into my career already.
what would you say is something that you're really proud of that feels like, a made it kind of moment for you?
Um, there were a few different moments in my career that I'm absolutely grateful and I'm so proud I've done it. Like, a few different speaking engagements. For example, I was a WMAX speaker at one point, and it was really big, I think, in terms of my career. But what I can think of is probably my project that I did a few years ago called 2.5 seconds. That it wasn't it wasn't really pivotal in terms of like success or career, but this is the project that I'm very, very proud of, that I did it, and it was very deep and personal and meaningful to me because it was the first project that was not just, oh, just pretty girls and pretty dresses in pretty locations. It had some meaning that I wanted to address to my followers and to people out there.
This is the environmental.
Yes, so yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the 2.5 seconds is a project about climate change awareness. And I created it a few years ago in Iceland in 2019. But it was like a few years, probably it was 3 year long project, and it's a series of different photographs. I think it's like 9 or 10 in total, and each photograph represents and illustrates a very specific environmental issue by me using the photography medium, subjects, locations, symbolism, and metaphors.
Um, what are you most passionate about right now?
Um, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of having a rough period right now in terms of my photography journey. The past 2 years been really hard. With all different sorts of things. War in Ukraine has definitely been a hit. Um, all the like social media algorithm are not helping, and now the boom of the AI also like contributing of for maybe not just me, but a lot of people are struggling with like motivation and inspiration. So right now I'm like trying to figure out what's next for me.
Reinventing.
If I should evolve as a photographer altogether and maybe like take a little bit of different direction, maybe explore different mediums. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I know it feels like a very frustrating place to be, and I don't wanna make light of it, but it's also, in a sense, kind of exciting because, you think about your butterflies in your stomach photograph, like, it came from a very dark place, and the authenticity of that emotion
Mhm.
is what propelled it forward. So, it almost feels like you're going through another metamorphosis.
We'll see. Maybe. Yeah.
So you touched on an AI, and I did want this was something that I thought about because I've known your work, and the thing that really stood out to me is just how seamless and believable your images are. Um, in a time where it was Photoshop wasn't even all that sophisticated, and that's probably why you get selected to give workshops because it's so it's so well thought out, and it's interesting to see because you sort of have like behind the scenes images that show like what objects are small and you enlarged and what objects you sort of like created large
Yeah.
versions, and then, so there's a lot of set design, and, there's a lot that goes into your photographs, and in the end, what the result is this surrealness of, like, this feels like it's real, but it can't possibly be.
No, it's not. Yes.
Yeah, and now it feels like there's a part of you that might have to be, like, I actually go on location. I don't have AI generate the location for me. I actually have props. I actually photograph the props or I make my props and I meticulously put everything together. And um, it shifts the part of the conceptual part of your photographs because the believability of the unbelievable. The bel Does that does that make sense? But, like, you make it you
It
made
makes sense.
y
Yes.
yes, well, and so it's like, it can't be true, but it looks so real, and AI does that, like, just so I'm very curious, what your sort of how you feel about, the fact that anybody now can just dream up some surreal situation and create an image, just by with a few prompts.
Mhm.
How does that make you feel? And, um, are you on any level, embracing AI as a tool? Because you are somebody who was embracing the technology from the get-go. So I'm really curious. I'm sure there's a lot of, like, complicated love-hate relationships here,
Yeah, for sure.
and I would
Absolutely.
love for you to just, whatever you're comfortable,
Mhm.
discussing.
So, well, first of all, thank you. The secret of my photography is that I do use a lot of props and set design and installations, and I travel, I go out there to a real location. And it's funny to me because, like you said, from the very beginning, I've been using Photoshop pretty heavily, especially compared to, traditional photographers. In my whole career, I've been defending myself. People would say me, oh, it's all Photoshop, like dismiss it, like, oh, it's all Photoshop. It's not real photography. And I would have to, defend myself and tell them that yes and no. Well, yes, I do use a lot of compositing and, Photoshop editing. But I go out there, I take pictures myself. I do use sets and props and I shoot as much as possible on set. And that's what helps me create my images, believable with less effort. And now suddenly not suddenly Photoshop is cool. Well, oh yeah, it's Photoshop. It's all made by hand. Suddenly I have to defend myself that it's not AI.
Yeah.
And I've already had that reaction from people who would see my, let's say, Instagram account that I use as a portfolio and was like, is it AI? And I get very frustrated, obviously, because no, I spend so much time coming up with developing concepts, doing research, doing location scouting, reaching out to people, models, or whatever, shooting myself, creating props, sourcing props, buying props, then putting everything together and spending hours in Photoshop making that final image. And I've been doing this for 15 years of my career, evolving, perfecting my skills, learning, um, becoming a different person in the process. And then for somebody to come and tell me, oh, it's all AI with just, click of a button, basically. Um, yeah, it's very frustrating because now we have the social media algorithms haven't been helping at all, to get your work out there for it to be seen and appreciated. Now the internet is filled with all this AI slop that just devalues. People keep telling me that yes, people no, no, don't worry, people are going to appreciate, people are going to, appreciate more because it's all human made. And I'm like, sure, a certain amount of people, but the rest are not going to care. They're just going to, scroll social media, whatever, and just go see pictures and they won't see a difference. And that is just devalues everything we as an artist do, all our skills and experiences and, years of work and effort. And it just makes me sad and angry and frustrated and uncertain what's going to be next because suddenly my skills as a Photoshop educator, which I do tutorials, I do workshops, I do presentations, are suddenly less required. But that is fine, it's just, my way of making a little bit of living. But as an artist, it's also hurts because suddenly somebody who didn't spend that many years or who didn't get required skills, talent, whatever, suddenly with just a few prompts they create an image and call it art. And I'm like, sorry, no, this is not art. This is just a machine created an image for you using everything we artists already create.
Scraped scraped
Yeah,
your images to teach you something.
scraped a little bit of everything from we already created and generated something new for you. So yes, and it's just like it always gets me also frustrated the fact when all these like tech people who do, develop all these tools and they like, oh, we've developed these tools for you to make the process easier. I'm like, yes, but you guess what? We like the process. We as artists, we actually enjoy the process. That's why we do it. We like the challenge. We like a little bit of challenge, to, achieve the goal and then spend time, effort, struggle, and then be proud of what we achieved because if it's just a click on a button then it's not interesting anymore, it's not exciting anymore. And my hope is that's going to happen in the future, that people are just going to get bored and tired of it, and that's when the human. But again, I'm a little skeptical, so
Well,
I don't know.
one way to think about it, because and it gets more and more realistic just exponentially because it teaches itself. It's just
Right, right.
it's
Social media.
but what happens that if everybody can generate the perfect image with a click of a button, um the the value of a perfect image.
Exactly, and that's what I am saying. Like my images are suddenly not unique in a way anymore.
They
They're not.
are.
There, I hope
Well,
so, but
I
I
you
hope
know
like for a regular person who just scrolls and they won't probably see a difference between AI generated and my work. If suddenly my work doesn't have any value or meaning or interest, and suddenly it's not, oh, how you made it. It's suddenly, oh, it's probably AI, and people won't any go any deeper than that and won't look at my behind the scenes videos or photographs. And it's for me, it's I don't know, I hate it.
yeah, no, I can hear the frustration. I can only imagine because this was something that and when you were doing this 15 years ago, we could not have predicted.
Yeah,
We
I always
could not
thought
have
like
predicted this.
because it's a creative process that machines cannot replicate,
Exactly.
I'm safe.
Yeah.
Really, I'm not.
Be safe. I mean, I think that's kind of one of the lessons here. But I think and you know, I don't know if this is a direction to go, but um I think you're selling yourself short when you're comparing like when you're letting that comparison get to you so much because that is just like one superficial layer. So yes, so somebody's scrolling through Instagram and seeing your surreal images, and then seeing AI images. Um, One thing, and AI is getting a little better, but AI, what's going to become very clear is that when everybody can generate whatever image they want with a click of a button, and that becomes something that's sort of normalized. What's going to stand out again is the aesthetic of an artist, your eye, your sensitivity to color, your talent of storytelling, of having a concept, an idea, and that there's something about like the physicality of the props, and there's something about the fact that it's a real location and a real human being that you're working with that right now it's something that was always part of the image, but I think that might start to bubble up to the surface because the the surreal, seamless integration that Photoshop allowed you to do, that's gonna start to, like, not be as important, but some of the other things are always gonna be there, and, AI is a great tool, but it can't replace human imagination and creativity.
I hope so. I hope you're right, but this is the struggle and
It
frustration
is.
I'm going through right now and struggling a lot with inspiration and moving forward.
Yeah, and that's I didn't intend to, like, go there, but I was curious because your images, like, what I get from the images, like, once you get over the, like, "Wow, how did she do that?" Like, once you get over that, and people in the future are not gonna be stuck with that, "Wow, how did she do that?" Because, they will probably assume it's AI, but when when you get past that, you still have an incredible image and an incredible body of work and an incredible, like, storytelling and everything else, and you are using real people. So, I think your art is still there, and I hope I get to talk to you again in however long it takes for you to sort of, like, have the next breakthrough because I know it's coming. Like, you took a leap of faith and, uh, the cards were stacked against you so much more in 2014 when you just packed your bags and moved to New York without a job, without a clue of what happens next. And, so I'm really excited to see what comes next for you, even though it feels really dark right now. And I hope I'm not like overstepping here, but
No, it's fine. Thank you so much, though.
my my usual sort of like question that I would ask is, how would you define success? And it just feels maybe a little not the right question to ask, um, in a time when you're sort of like trying to figure out what's next. Um, but maybe a different question I can ask is, as a person who's creative, who has searched for a creative um, form of expression, and you know, strongly embraced one, and has been producing a creative body of work that's meaningful all these years. Um, how do you stay how do you stay creative? How do you stay inspired even now?
It's hard. I'm gonna be honest, it's hard. I don't know. I guess it's just at this point when I'm, trying to figure out what's next for me, um, the thought that this is now such a big, huge part of my life. This is who I am. I'm a photographer. Uh, I'm a digital artist, whatever you want to call it. I've been doing this for 15 years now, almost. I can't just throw it all away. I can't. I can't even think about it. Like, how, let's just imagine that I would like to quit for a second, right? I can't imagine, like, what am I going to do then? Like, what else? What else? Because this is me, you know? So I think this thought keeps what keeps me going. And I'm just trying to, like, process that everything's been going on last couple of years, and just, like, think about, like, maybe I should, take a little bit of different direction, or maybe I just, like, stay. And like I said, Photoshop was always like look like frowned upon, and suddenly it's cool again.
Mhm.
Or like maybe you are, as a traditional painter, you were like, oh, nobody's interested, everybody went digital. But now suddenly traditional painter is what's
Exactly.
the most valuable now.
Yeah.
So maybe we just have to, like, wait and see where it take us, and not give up in the process. So I think that's what keeps me going. And just having these conversations help,
Absolutely.
being among creatives and be among your colleagues gives me a big boost of motivations usually.
Same, same. And I it's
The thought that you're not alone. I'm not the only crazy person in the room, that everybody else is,
yeah.
that really helps.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it keeps happening, you know. I think that's the example I like to give is how photography, when photography became sort of democratized, everybody could have a camera,
Mhm.
how it changed portraiture,
Yeah, that's
because there
that's
were
actually true.
artists who like made a living painting
Maybe people look back at me back then as now people look at AI. Oh, now you can Photoshop everything. You don't have to be a good photographer anymore. Maybe.
and those is, every time there is this technological advance in the art, um, it it will replace some things, and it will replace some jobs. I think that when Photoshop uh, became something, a tool, because before that there were people whose entire career was retouching photos.
Right, in the lab.
Yeah, it used to be, the norm for, commercial photography and fashion photography. Things got retouched.
Right.
Suddenly, you didn't do
Everybody can
that.
do it. Oh, yeah.
And I feel like we're going through another big paradigm shift in terms of, a skill set
Mhm.
that, um but it's a skill set, and in your case, it's a skill set that you have perfected, and has been such an important part of how your art is made and how you think of yourself as an artist. Um, it, um, it's I can't imagine how hard it must be to suddenly be replaced so
Oh,
fast.
I'm not gonna, put myself above everything. I use AI. I'm not gonna lie. I use it. Like I use generative
You might
feeling.
as well. It's here to stay.
It's here to say, and it's like, and it's let's be honest, it's incredible. Like if you think about it, the technology is absolutely incredible, and I can't fight it. Like if I can make my editing easier, faster, and better, then I would probably do it. Um,
Exactly.
and I use it. I use generative fill AI in Photoshop. I sometimes I would even use Midjourney to create like mood boards or references or some inspirations. I use ChatGPT to help me with emails because I suck at emails. I'm not a writer. I suck at writing, so that's been a game changer for me. And my process hasn't changed. So
Right.
I'm using AI not to generate, but to complement my process. So my process hasn't changed. I still go out there. I still go out on location. I bring my props, my gear. I take a picture. I come back to my computer. I open Photoshop and I spend hours Photoshop. Just now, instead of, there's a good example I talk about all the time. I had a photo shoot where I put a model in a costume of a deer. She had like antlers, and little ears, the hoof shoes, and she was wearing a wig. Beautiful, long, curly wig. And it had like a fake hairline, obviously. It was pretty obvious that was a wig. So before that, I would spend, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes maybe retouching it. Now I just circle it and I type in natural hairline and it makes me in a second, and I'm like, I'm blown away, and of
Yeah.
course I'm going to use it. I'm not gonna be here like I mean I respect photographers who are like, "No AI," like, 0. I respect that. I mean, good for you, but, um,
Well,
I
image manipulation is part of your artistic form of expression.
Mhm.
And I guess one way to think about it, like you wouldn't use Photoshop 4, like you wouldn't use Photoshop from 10 years ago. Now the tools have gotten better.
Yeah.
And so in a sense, like your tool set has gotten better. I think I think it's the optics. That's the problem right now. It's the optics. And for us artists who rely on social media, especially Instagram, to showcase our art and sort of
Yeah,
grow
that's
our
been very
following.
motivating, yeah.
Yeah, we're fighting with this plethora of AI generated images, and in your case, it really butts into like the look of your art. But
Yeah.
um, I feel like something really amazing is going to emerge from this because you know
I like your optimism.
it has to, because you have the drive to keep making art, you have the drive to keep telling your stories and creating your images, and, so before you're like, you wanted to make art that, like, looked like nobody else's. Well, here you are again, you wanted to look like nobody else's. In this case, though, that everybody else is AI, not a
You know, what my hope is this whole situation is also what keeps me going, is that after a while, all AI starts to look the same.
exactly, it does.
All looks the same. After a little while that you like I play with Midjourney a little bit. After a little bit, it's just all the same, no matter what you do.
Mhm.
Plus, I try to, oh, maybe I can use it for like inspiration and like, like creative direction. So I would type in something like create a surreal scene with like girl and a huge cat, something crazy. It's not
Because it does not have imagination.
it
It
creates
only
beautiful women in beautiful settings, but it's not storytelling. It
no,
does not help me with coming up with
no.
ideas.
Yeah.
It might help me with like the look I want to achieve,
Mhm.
but not the story behind it.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Like it doesn't have imagination of its own, and it's in yes, it has this vast library of images it can pull from, but um it's not a match for human creativity and human.
I really hope so, yeah.
But pulling back and looking at the arc of photography and the arc of image making, I'm really curious how the introduction of AI and the fact that it like automates so many things that we used to value, and they just lose their value because that there's no effort in it anymore. But it brings out it will bring out other things that AI can't do. At the end of the day, it can't create art. It can't replace the art.
And
Well, I wish you luck.
thank you.
Um, I know it's been a tough couple of years, 3 years. It's been tough. It's been tough, but, I'm wishing you all the success,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
and thank you so much for, coming and talking and being so honest about your process and where you are.
I think it's very important to share, to be honest and to share what's on your mind, not just, oh, look at me, I'm so talented and successful, because that doesn't help anybody. Like,
No.
I want to know that I'm not the only one who struggled, who goes through these things, and it really helps. So,
I think for me, like I like highlighting successes and like the pivotal points where like you find your success, you find your voice, you find a direction. I like highlighting those because that kind of optimism is something that drives me forward, and I feel it's you hear stories and each story is so unique. Um and my hope is what it says is that there isn't just one way to do things. Um, and you have to trust yourself. But at the same time, the flip side of it is that uh, being a creative, being an artist, there's also those times when you're blocked, when what you're doing is no longer relevant, or
questioning the life choices.
yes, questioning everything. And um that is such part of the creative journey. It really is. It's always part of the creative journey. And,
Yeah, I feel like the creative journey looks like
exactly.
waves, ups and downs, ups and downs.
Yeah, yeah. But it's, at the end of the day, it's your story and it's your art. And maybe, how you make it will have to change. Um,
We will all have to adapt, I guess.
we do. And, um, yeah. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and for this conversation.
Thanks again for tuning in. That's our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please help us out by leaving a review, a comment, subscribing, sharing it with your friends. Every little bit helps, and I really appreciate it. And before we go, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor and producer, Art Storefronts. If you've been thinking about turning your art into a real business or just want to level up your online presence, now is honestly the best time, especially with the holiday selling season coming up in Q4. I can't stress this enough. Art Storefronts isn't just a website builder. They're a full-blown partner for your art business. They give you the tools, education, and marketing support to actually make sales, not just sit online and hope. And if you're unsure whether your art will sell, no worries. Just head to artstorefronts.com and sign up for a demo. They'll give you a free art review and a marketing assessment of your art to show you exactly what's possible. So go to artstorefronts.com, tell them Hava sent you, and I'll catch you on the next episode.